It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning broadcast covering fishing, hunting, and outdoor recreation throughout the great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, producing a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter, and by Loophole, America's optical authority. Also sponsoring the show every week is Shiloh Inn & Suites, offering affordable excellence throughout the West. Mardon Resort, the place to fish and hunt in eastern Washington, and the Wallowa County Chamber of Commerce, where nature is on display in Northeast Oregon all year long. And now, let's head into the field with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome to winter. That's right, it officially arrives on the 22nd with the winter solstice, and Christmas is coming right after that. Where does the time go? We've got a special wintertime broadcast for you this week. I think you're really going to enjoy, and we'll be taking you all over the Northwest in the process. We'll start off by chatting with Roger Phillips with Idaho Fish and Game about the incredible trophy perch fishery available in central Idaho's Cascade Lake. This is an ice fishing show, and a very good one, too. Several record perch have been caught out of here, and Roger thinks there's a really good chance for more records to be broken here, too. In addition to talking specifically about ice fishing on Cascade Lake, Roger's going to give you some ice fishing tips that'll come in handy wherever you might be ice fishing for perch in the Northwest. We'll turn our attention from perch to steelhead as we talk to Lance Mers about a unique jig that has been catching some very nice metalheads out of both the Snake and Columbia rivers for well over a decade. And from there, we'll head all the way down to the border of Oregon and California, where guide Steve Huber is primed to go fishing for winter steelhead on the Chetco and Smith rivers. Looking for another unique winter destination where you can play in the snow? Last week, we told you about the Isaac Walton Inn in western Montana. This week, we're going to introduce you to the Scottish Lakes High Camp. It's located in Washington's Central Cascades. Owner Chris Hansen will join us to share this wonderful backcountry getaway at the edge of the Alpine Lakes Wilderness area, where you can ski, where you can snowshoe, where you can sled down a hill, or just spend some time enjoying the winter in the wilderness. In addition to that, we've got a sad commentary about a trend we're starting to see with certain outdoor television hosts who have been breaking the law, and on a more upbeat side, an opportunity to get outside and participate in the annual Audubon Christmas bird count. Throw in our trivia question of the week and your chance to win a $25 gift card from Sportsman's Warehouse, and I'd say we've got quite the show coming your way. But first, we've got another edition of Sportsman Spotlight for you. This week, David Sparks talks to the editor of Outdoor Life, Andrew McKean. He hails from Montana and explains how this storied magazine keeps a continual focus of fishing and hunting in the West.
Outdoor Life's story, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Andrew McKean is the chief editor of Outdoor Life, and while we were talking about his vast knowledge of white-tailed deer and their history in America, I changed it up a little bit and I asked him about the history of the magazine.
Outdoor Life's 117th year of existence. It started in 1898 and actually in Denver. The thing I love about Outdoor Life is it's a national magazine of, kind of international reputation, but it started as a Western magazine. In fact, the first 5 years or so, that was what it called itself, was the magazine for the Western sportsman. And so it's always looked west. It's always had a pretty significant perspective on elk hunting and public land in the West and mule deer, and it just sort of that type of content. The reason that really resonates with me is I'm a Westerner, I'm a Montanan, and when I started working for the magazine, it was important for me to stay in the West. Outdoor Life is actually published. Our editorial offices are in Manhattan, in the heart of New York City. It was a pretty hard sell for me to move to New York City as a Montanan, and so I somehow convinced my bosses to let me live out in the field in eastern Montana and work for the magazine. Little by little, I guess I either did something really good or really wrong, because I'm still here. But now I'm the editor-in-chief.
I kind of lean towards really good.
Well, I hope so. You might have to ask my boss.
Nah, don't have to. It's true.
This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight. For over 30 years, the Ag Information Network of the West has been providing news and information for the ag industry. Agriculture is the most important industry in the world, and the Ag Information Network of the West gives you updates on all aspects with local producers, regional organizations, and worldwide updates. From major crops like wheat, cattle, and corn to specialty crops like apples, hops, and mint, the Ag Information Network of the West reports on the stories that mean the most to you. Online at aginfo.net and on Facebook and Twitter, get the ag news you need on the Ag Information Network of the West.
If you eat, agriculture is important to you. And if you need to stay up to date on what's going on in agriculture, then tune to the Ag Information Network of the West. Fewer and fewer farmers and ranchers are feeding more and more people globally. We cover the issues from the field to the floor of the house and beyond. You can depend on Ag Information Network of the West for the information and the stories you need. Join us online at aginfo.net and on Facebook and Twitter. For Ag News, tune to the Ag Information Network of the West.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top-quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
More habitat equals more wildlife. Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. Join the habitat leader and help create wildlife habitat in your community. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
Hey guys, stop. Grab your bait and listen. Ice is on the lake, so we're going fishing. With me is my best friend Mike. We're hitting Lake Boygan for the trophy fight. Will I catch a perch? Hey, I guess so. I got some new jigs and a brand new Zebco. I loaded up the truck with all my new gear. Mike got the bait. I bought the beers.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Up next, we're taking you to the great state of Idaho because there's some great perch fishing going on over there. Not only good perch fishing, but big perch as well. With us here to tell us more about fishing under the ice at Cascade Lake for jumbo perch is Roger Phillips with Idaho Fish and Game. Roger, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, John.
Roger, tell our listeners a little bit about Cascade Lake. Where's it at, and how big are the perch in this lake?
Well, it is about 75 miles north of Boise and obviously near the town of Cascade and also about 25 miles south of McCall, which is a really popular area. And kind of the quick and dirty on the perch there is Idaho had a perch record that stood 38 years, and in the last 2 years it got broken basically 3 times from perch that came out of Lake Cascade. So there's really generating some big perch. There was some net surveys done this fall, and they found that over 27% of the fish that they caught in those net surveys were over 12 inches, which is pretty phenomenal perch.
That is really incredible for perch. When I was a kid, I used to fish Lake Sammamish over in western Washington, and when we caught anything over 12 inches, we called it a sumo perch. So those are really big perch, lots of good meat on those, and you know, great fillets. I love perch
absolutely.
Meat. Oh, but getting back to the size, though, so what is the current state record in Idaho that's come out of Cascade Lake?
The state record is about 2 pounds, I believe 11 ounces. I'd have to pull that up in front of me, but it's a great big, about 15 and a half inches long.
Wow.
And coincidentally, like I said, they actually netted one out of there that was about the same length. But for those fish to get to actual record size, it's kind of a timing thing because they're the heaviest of the year right before they spawn. So right at toward the end of ice fishing season, that February, March is when those big fish come out, but when they're the heaviest, I should say. But they're still just as long, you know, this time of year.
So that begs the point here. You've gotten these record fish, and I know that a lot of fisheries are cyclical. Kokanee fisheries are very well known for boom and bust when it comes to size, when it comes to population. Is the perch fishing like this too? I mean, do you expect this record to be broken again?
I think there's a pretty good chance, and that's a great question because you're absolutely right. I mean, fisheries are always kind of a snapshot in time, and the one thing that we can guarantee people is things will probably be a little different in the future. But what kind of happened is we had a major restoration project that the department did here started actually about 15 years ago. and the perch were almost gone. And through a massive transplant effort, as well as knocking down some of the predator population, it was almost like a new reservoir. And when you have that new situation, you dump a population in there, they grow very well. And, you've got all kinds of carrying capacity. And so the big question right now is when those perch are kind of going to reach that capacity where they no longer are producing those great big ones, but instead of having a fewer number of huge perch, you kind of have that more, when you think of a bell curve, more of them in the middle.
Okay.
So we're not seeing it yet, but I would have to think that the clock is ticking. And how many years is it going to be? I don't know, but I definitely don't think it's going to last forever.
But it certainly sounds like if somebody was out there with the intention of trying to break the state record, they've got a legitimate shot this season, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And trust me, guys are. And, I know a couple of them personally, and they kind of consider themselves on a mission. So it's always really fun to watch this to see how they do.
It's funny you mentioned that Wallowa Lake over in Wallowa County, Northeast Oregon, when they were catching the huge kokanee out of there, it was attracting anglers from all over the western U.S. and British Columbia who had that exact same mission. They were out there to catch the world record fish. So nice to see that it goes the same way for perch. Let's talk a little bit about ice fishing basics for folks that maybe want to try this and haven't done it before. Cascade Reservoir is a really big reservoir. It
is. It's about roughly 40 miles long. And I couldn't tell you what the perimeter of it is, but, there's a lot of different places to access it from, including pretty much right from the town of Cascade.
So one's got to ask, if you go to the lake, huge lake, where do you start? I guess the best place, I'm just guessing because I don't know, is look where the other anglers are.
I call that the poor man's fish finder. Look where the other anglers are. And the beauty of ice fishing is, it's kind of a social thing. And, if you give them a reasonable distance, people aren't usually going to give you the stink eye if you come up and fish next to them. So it's, what's a reasonable distance? That's kind of different for everybody. But when you see these crowds of 50 or 100 people out on the ice, they aren't all buddies. That's just kind of where people are congregating.
There you go. You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking about catching big perch out of Cascade Lake in Idaho with Roger Phillips, who's with Idaho Fish and Game. Roger, for those who are not really familiar with ice fishing, I know it's not a huge technical sport to get started, but you do need some basic equipment. You need an auger, and it can either be electric or a hand auger. What else do you need?
A slush spoon and your regular fishing tackle is pretty much all you need. But of course, in Idaho, you can fish up to 5 lines. So, the beauty of ice fishing is those cute little ice fishing rods, you can get them for about $20 with a reel attached. So it's always fun to fish multiple lines, especially when the fishing's hot, because you're just running back and forth between these things, and it's kind of a giggle fest.
Now, out in the Midwest, you see these shelters pop up, and people almost turn these into homes away from home with TV and heaters and everything else. Are you seeing that out on Cascade Lake, too?
Not on Cascade. It's pretty rare to see a shack, but at the same time, we're seeing a lot more tents and people hauling snowmobiles and four-wheelers and pulling sleds out there and kind of setting up I like to call it tailgating on the ice, because that's really the atmosphere it kind of turns into.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Let's talk about actually catching the perch. What are folks using? If someone was to go out there and you were to say, here's what I use in terms of a jig and bait, what would you tell them?
I always start with either just a worm or a wax worm and take it from there. As soon as you catch a perch, it's good to try cut bait. Just fillet one of those little babies and put a little piece of meat on there. Jigs are pretty darn popular, but I've seen and caught pretty fair number of perch with just bait.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. And yeah, perch do love crawlers, perch do love worms, so nothing wrong with that at all. And last but not least, I think it's really important if we're talking about ice fishing, we need to talk about being safe on the ice. What are a few basic pointers people need to keep in mind?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, what we recommend is about 4 inches of really clear, solid ice minimum for just a person to walk out and stand there. And unfortunately, with Lake Cascade, we had that great cold snap. It formed ice a little earlier than usual. Now it's gotten rain on top of it. I would wait until later in the season. Wait till you see people out there. But obviously check for yourself, too. Don't take other people's word for it. Get out there, drill with your auger. measure that ice with a tape measure, not just with your fingers, so you know, and then just use a lot of common sense. If something doesn't look or feel right, get the heck out of there. It's just not worth it, and it'll be there another day.
Absolutely. And another great rule of thumb, folks, is if you're the only guy out there on the ice, that's probably not a good sign. So
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's another thing I think it's a social affair is I like lots of people when I'm out there because either A, it's safe, or B, I got lots of people to rescue me if I do something dumb.
Very well said. We are running out of time, but before we go, are there any resources that Idaho Fish and Game has available for folks who want to go ice fishing or head on up to Cascade Lake to try for some of these big perch?
Yeah, we have a pretty darn good page on our website that's devoted to ice fishing that explains a lot of these basics, and there's some videos on there, and I think it's a pretty good resource for people just getting started. And, one last thing I'd like to point out, beginners really shouldn't be afraid of ice fishing. It's one of the most basic ways to fish, and it's just a lot of fun. You don't have to launch a boat. You don't need a bunch of fancy equipment. Just go out there and have a good time.
There you go. That's ice fishing at Cascade Lake in Idaho, and God knows there's a lot of other lakes around the Northwest you can do some ice fishing at as well. Find out more on the Idaho Fish and Game website. Just Google Idaho Fish and Game. It'll be the top hit. You'll go right there, and you'll find the information you need. Roger, thanks for coming back on Northwestern Outdoors Radio and sharing this great information.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Leupold has been building optics in Oregon since 1907, and Leupold binoculars bring excellent optical performance and modern styling to the serious outdoorsman. Whether you're a boater, birder, backpacker, or hunter, Leupold's state-of-the-art binocular lines are sure to fit your needs. Visit Leupold.com or your local Cabela's, Bi-Mart, or Sportsman's Warehouse to see the full line of Leupold optics.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
With Lance Mers from Max Lure Company. Lance, I know you love fishing. Where do you plan on going this week?
John, I'd really like to hit the Wallace River in western Washington, Snohomish County for steelhead fishing. It's great. And one of the things that I use is the Rock Dancer bucktail jig. And the cool thing about it is that it has 14 different colors and 3 sizes.
The Wallace River, it's right off the Skykomish River, right off of US 2. It's a small stream. You're going to be fishing there, but it's known as it's a good steelhead stream, and at certain times of year, it's a good salmon stream as well. Tell us more about how you're going to fish this Rock Dancer jig to catch some of these steelhead.
Well, John, I'm going to place the jig underneath the slip bobber and just go ahead and drift it. But the cool thing about it is this bucktail hair is hollow and buoyant, so it produces that live action in the water, and it mimics a lot of the forage.
Now, something else about the Rock Dancer, it has a scent collar. Do you usually put scent on it, like shrimp scent or something like that?
That's the other great thing about this jig is that you can apply any type of scent to the collar, and it's just going to help you catch more fish.
And if you can use bait, consider putting a little bit of shrimp there too. It's got a stout hook. I've caught a lot of steelhead with this lure myself. It's the Rock Dancer jig from Max Lure Company. Find out more at maxlure.com. Max Lure, makers of the patented Smile Blade and world-famous wedding ring spinner. Lance, thanks as always. We'll see you on the Wallace River.
All right, John. Thanks.
Listen up, steelheaders. Fishing jigs under slip bobbers is one of the best ways to hook up with a metalhead this season, and Max Lure Company has got 2 jigs you have got to have. The Glow Getter is a marabou jig with a stout hook that's perfect for waters where no bait is allowed. When you can use bait, tie on a Rock Dancer. Tip it with a shrimp and put some oil on the scent collar, and before you know it, you'll be catching some of the best fighting fish around. The Glow Getter and Rock Dancer jigs, only from Max Lure Company.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out in the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
Shiloh Inn's Affordable Excellence. Welcome to Shiloh Inn's 4-star accommodations at 2-star affordable prices. I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. I personally invite you to enjoy Shiloh Inn's deluxe smoke-free suites, then relax and enjoy our spacious pools and spas with steam and sauna rooms and fully equipped fitness centers. And Shiloh's 4-star treatment is even more affordable with more free amenities than most other hotel chains, like free high-speed internet to a free continental delicious breakfast or full hot breakfast at most Shiloh Inns. Even the kids stay free. And smoke-free Shiloh Inns are all dog-friendly. That's what we mean by 4-star accommodations at 2-star affordable prices. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohinns.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American family-owned and proud of it.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We've been talking about wintertime fun here in the Northwest, and I've got to tell you about a really unique place. It's located in the Central Cascades of Washington State, between Stevens Pass and the Bavarian-themed town of Leavenworth. It's called the Scottish Lakes High Camp. It's like no other place I've been to before. With us here to tell us more about it is the owner, Chris Hansen. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, John. I'm happy to be here.
It's been way, way too long since we have talked, so I'm really excited to share with our listeners some information about the Scottish Lakes High Camp. Why don't you give our listeners the brief elevator speech about where you are and what the camp's all about in the winter?
Okay, we're up in the Chihuahua Mountains. You meet us in our parking lot, which is on Highway 2, and we take you up 8.5 miles. The elevation gain is 3,000 feet, and High Camp is a little village of 9 cabins at 5,000 feet that is just pretty idyllic. So in the winter, there's snowshoeing, sledding, cross-country skiing, backcountry skiing, telemark skiing, pretty much any winter sport. And you can also just stay in your cabin and write a novel.
I love that idea. And boy, what a great place to do it uninterrupted, especially in just a drop-dead gorgeous setting as well. So let's talk about getting to camp, because that's half the fun, especially this time of year when that logging road is covered with snow. How do you get folks from basically the Nason Creek Rest Area right across from there up to the high camp?
We meet our guests at a predetermined pickup time. There's 6 different choices during the day, so there's lots of options. We load people in gear and chained up Suburbans and drive as far as we've plowed the road, which is usually about 4 miles. Then we transfer people and gear to snowmobiles and snowmobile in the rest of the way. And that whole trip is 8.5 miles, elevation gain 3,000 feet. There's also an option if somebody wants to ski in from that mid-mountain point. We would take their gear and they could just ski in, and that's a really fun way to get to High Camp.
Yeah, but that's all uphill, isn't it?
It is uphill, John. That's what the mountains are all about.
I like the part about going downhill, not uphill if I'm going to be there. All right. So once you're at camp, I know there's a day lodge and there's some other stuff we're going to talk about too, but let's talk about the cabins themselves. Now, there's no electricity at the high camp, is there? Right.
There is not. The cabins have propane burners to cook on and dishes and pots and pans for stovetop cooking. There's a wood-burning stove with wood, kindling, and newspaper. There's propane lights, and there's large containers of wonderful spring water to use. When you run out, you just bring your container to the lodge and exchange it for a full one. So there's pillows and pillowcases. Our couples cabins, we provide bedding. If you come in with a group, you bring your sleeping bag, and it's just a cozy little place to stay.
Oh, it really is. And folks, I absolutely love the cabins up there. They really are very comfortable. And believe it or not, that propane does the job, and the wood stove's going to keep you warm too. So you've got the cabin where you're going to be spending some time, but you've got a day lodge too. And I really like that day lodge.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. On Saturday nights in the winter, we have a potluck every Saturday night. It's very casual. People don't even have to RSVP if they're going to be there. But we gather, anybody who wants to shows up, brings a main dish and either a salad or a dessert to share, and we all have dinner together. And it's a wonderful evening in the lodge. There's always interesting people at High Camp. That's one of the charming things about a visit up there.
Now, something else I want to talk about. After you've gone out and had fun all day, there's a great way to relax. You actually have a sauna there at High Camp too, don't you?
We have a sauna and we have a hot tub. We have a wood-fired hot tub.
Wow, love it.
Sitting there in the middle of High Camp. It's really comfy, and you can look at the stars while you're just relaxing after a day of skiing.
So let's talk a little bit about the skiing. Again, folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Chris Hansen about the wonderful place she owns called the Scottish Lakes High Camp, located in Washington Central Cascades. You've got quite a few miles of marked trails for cross-country skiers, don't you?
Right, and there's all different levels. There's trails that would be good for somebody who's just beginning, and then, of course, you can do McHugh Ridge for intermediate skiers, and then there's great backcountry access to the Alpine Lakes Wilderness area, an area we call the High Meadows. There's peaks that go up to 7,000 feet that you can access on a day trip.
Wow. And if you're bringing the kids, or if you're not into skiing, you've got a nice hill right outside the lodge that's just perfect for sledding.
Yeah, it's wonderful when kids are up there. You just hear their laughter constantly, and they'll be up there sledding before breakfast, after dinner, not wanting to go to bed. They just have such a wonderful time. It's joyful.
Speaking of joyful, to me, it's just so wonderful to think of a place where there's no televisions, there's no radios, there's no cell phones. I mean, it's just, you're there in the backcountry with just the basic necessities and the great outdoors to enjoy, and especially in this pristine winter environment at the edge of the Alpine Lakes wilderness. I mean, it doesn't get any better, does it?
No, it's a wonderful place to take a break from, the stresses of everyday life.
Now, one other thing I want to talk about is that this goes all the way into April, or until the snow melts, which usually is April or beyond, so lots of time to go ahead and get up there, but you are a very popular place. So the word's been out about the Scottish Lakes High Camp for a while, and I know you have a lot of return business, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We have the High Camp community is a very loyal group of people.
So let's talk about summer, fall, and that's when I got to visit with you, and I absolutely loved it up there. All those skiing trails become hiking trails, and then you can access what's called the Scottish Lakes, which, by the way, folks, happen to have some great cutthroat trout fisheries in them.
Yeah, the fishing up there really is good. There's 9 lakes that you can hike to from High Camp, on a day hike. So it really is a great place to come to do a hike to a lake and to do some great fishing.
And they're called the Scottish Lakes, folks, because they have Scottish names. So when I was up there, for example, several years ago, my first destination was to hike to Lake Julius, where I found like 6 to 7 to 8 inch cutthroat trout. From there, I went to Loch Hyleen, where I caught, 8 to 10 inch cutthroat trout. And from there, I went up to Lake Donald, where all of a sudden the cutthroat trout were up to 12 inches. It was amazing. The further you hiked, the bigger the trout got.
That's right.
Chris, what else do people need to know about making a reservation so they can come on up to the high camp?
Well, they can always give me a call, but most people these days find us on the internet, ScottishLakes.com. We have a really good website, have a wonderful website helper, and you can find out about High Camp that way. And there's a place where you can just make a reservation online, or I never mind if people call. Actually, if someone has never been to High Camp, I always talk to them personally to make sure that it's the perfect place for their vacation.
Well, do we want to give out this phone number that I'm calling you on, or do you want to just send them to the website?
Well, the phone number, 509-763-3044, is our office phone.
Okay.
And then the website is ScottishLakes.com.
Okay, the phone number again, folks, is 509-763-3044. That's 509-763-3044. Or go to the website, which, by the way, has got some great photos to show you the high camp and the day lodge, too. It's ScottishLakes.com. That's ScottishLakes.com for a unique, rustic, and wonderful winter or summer, fall vacation in the backcountry. Chris, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Great talking to you, John.
Need a lightweight camp stove for your next adventure? The new Striker Series stove from Camp Chef is the perfect solution. 2 models of this single-burner stove let you cook using propane or isobutane. The heat ring technology built into the stove's cookware lets you boil water in less than 2 minutes. And like everything else in the Camp Chef line, the Striker Series stove is built tough. If you hike, paddle, hunt, or fish and cook while you do it, you're going to love the Striker Series stove. Find it at your local sporting goods store or at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Wake up to winter in Wallowa County. Grab your camera and don your skis for some Nordic skiing adventure at Salt Creek Summit or Wallowa Lake. Or spend the day on the family-friendly slopes of Fergie Ridge. Or slip into a set of skates and enjoy some time on the ice at our outdoor ice rink. Need to warm up? Then grab a cup of coffee or hot chocolate at one of our fine coffee and confectionery shops. And when evening comes, enjoy some of Wallowa County's fine dining and gaze at the stars before you dream of tomorrow's adventures. Your winter adventure begins at www.wallawacountychamber.com.
At Loophole Optics, they guarantee performance. Those other optics companies, they just warranty failure. That's why every Loophole product has a lifetime guarantee. Think of it as a warranty you'll never need to cash in on. Find out more at loophole.com.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. Got to tell you what, I am excited because I am heading to Mardon in 2 weeks. I'll be staying in one of their park cottages with my son and then heading out with my best friend and another good friend to go duck hunting. That's right. We are taking a ride on the duck taxi. We're heading out into Potholes Reservoir. We're going to be trying to whack some of those fat greenheads that have been down there in droves. That's right. The Northerns have arrived at Potholes Reservoir in the Columbia Basin. If things are colder than I expect, well, we'll go field hunting for geese because there's a lot of geese down there too. It is the perfect time to go waterfowl hunting. If you want to find out more, 2 ways to do it. Go to the Mardon Resort website at mardonresort.com or go to the Duck Taxi website. That's right, it's simply ducktaxi.com, ducktaxi.com for an incredible waterfowl hunting experience. We start off our outdoor news and mix it with some commentary. It's an unfortunate variation on a theme of criminal conduct I've been reporting on too much lately. Once again, an outdoors television host is being charged with a hunting violation. This time, it's Teresa Vale. She is frankly, a beautiful young lady who was crowned Miss Kansas in 2013. She serves in the Army National Guard, and she hosts a hunting show on the Outdoor Channel called Limitless with Teresa Vale. Beauty, however, is truly only skin deep, as her decision-making illustrates. According to multiple media outlets, this past May, Vale was on a guided grizzly bear hunt in Alaska and shot at a grizzly bear. She then fired a follow-up shot, which did not hit the first bear, but instead hit and killed a grizzly sow behind the first bear. Suddenly, she's got 2 dead grizzly bears on the ground and only a tag for 1. So, let me ask you this. What do you do? It's definitely, I'll admit, an aw crap moment, and you know there's going to be consequences, but an ethical hunter is going to contact the authorities and truthfully tell them what happened. Are you going to take some lumps? Yep, you will. But most folks will understand, and if you're smart, you'll share this with your fans too. That way, your integrity is intact even if your wallet is a little bit lighter. That's unfortunately not what Teresa Vale did. Nope, she and her 2 guides came up with a cockamamie scheme to purchase a second bear tag, which was reportedly flown in and dropped out of a plane. The tag was then backdated to make it look like both bears were legally taken. The bogus story came to light when Vale's film crew, who apparently are ethical people, went to the authorities and told them what happened. Vale and both guides have been charged for misdemeanor hunting violations. The Outdoor Channel has issued a statement to Fox 411 stating, "We have strict policies and procedures in place that require all of our talent and producers to abide by all hunting regulations. In June, Teresa Vale and the Limitless production team alerted the authorities of the situation. The hunt never aired on the Outdoor Channel." Now, I have to note, the Outdoor Channel did not say whether or not they're pulling the show or not, but I guess we'll have to see what happens next season as far as that goes. Meanwhile, Teresa Vale has also issued a statement of her own where she says, in part, that she is deeply sorry for her mistakes. Way to damage the brand, Teresa. Way to damage the brand of both yourself and of hunting. I've got to ask, though, why does this keep happening? It seems every few months I'm sharing news about yet another outdoors television personality breaking the rules when it comes to fishing and hunting. Is it an ego thing? Do these people think because they're on TV they're above the law? Maybe, though a friend of mine suggests it may have more to do with the pressure of capturing a successful hunt or fishing trip every episode and putting it out there for the viewers. A quest that for some hosts appears to take precedence over conducting an ethical pursuit of fish or game. I guess that's why I respect television hosts like Randy Newberg, who hosts Fresh Tracks, which airs on the Sportsman's Channel. He airs do-it-yourself public land hunts, and you know what? He gets skunked sometimes on his show. That's a little closer to real hunting, where all of us have had days, sometimes more days than others, where we come home empty-handed. And that's why it's called hunting, instead of televised entertainment, which some hosts believe must result in a successful harvest no matter the cost. Next on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're heading to the border of Oregon and California to give you a winter steelhead fishing report from Steve Huber, the owner of Steve Huber Guide Service. Steve, how's it been for these early winter steelhead, at least before the rains came?
We are off to a really good start so far for our steelhead season. I've been my home river on the Trinity for the last couple of weeks here. We're seeing very good numbers, and everyone was just kind of waiting for the first couple of storms to come in and see if we can activate those coastal steelhead to get moving. And we sure got it this week, so everything's in a positive direction for upcoming steelhead season on the coast.
You know, I like that about you, Steve. You're a cup half full sort of guy. Most people are looking at these blown out rivers we've had over the last couple of weeks and thinking, oh, this is awful. But as you know, this just means a lot more fish are going to be coming in. Let's go ahead and drill down on two rivers in particular. We'll start off with the Chetco River that flows out into the ocean near Brookings, Oregon. Tell me about this fishery.
This fishery is one of the fisheries that will have an upper section, which is a special permitted zone where there's only 22 permits for the upper section of the river. And then when you come about halfway down, you'll have the ability to come on, and we used a motorized drift boat on this area. Both is going to see a good number of fish come into the system. They had a very good opener for salmon season onto it, and that will usually lead into a very successful steelhead season, too.
So, Steve, tell me a little bit more about this upper section with 22 permits. Does that mean there's 22 guides allowed to fish it, and that's it, or what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. There's 22 special permits for the upper section, and private boaters have the ability to go into it. But, you know, if you don't have one of those permits, you're inclined to have to put in down at Icebox and work that section of the river.
All right. When it comes to the Chetco, what's prime time for winter steelhead on that river?
You know, they're going to see anywhere from, January. There'll probably be some early fishing here in December, right off the bat here, if the water conditions come down. And January, February, and into March are the prime months for seeing the most activity on that river.
All right. Well, let's cross the border into California and talk about the Smith River, very famous river that's near Crescent City. Tell me about this fishery. And a lot of people know about it, but we've got listeners in 4 states. There's some that don't.
Yeah, this is one of the last undammed rivers there is, so you're going to see giant swings of water. They have the prediction of that river pushing almost 100,000 CSF coming up here with these next batches of storms. This river can go up and down 5-6 feet in one day and drop that many the following day. It's one of the most beautiful rivers there is, going through the Jedediah Redwood area that most people are familiar with. You know, beautiful fishery. Going to see some fish in the 20-pound range get caught on this river every year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a absolutely beautiful river. One great thing about that thing is it's undammed, and the conditions change daily on that river. And so does, the pressure and the different areas to fish in that thing. But it's one of those things I take my kids to every year. We just go out and fish as a family, and it's probably one of the most beautiful rivers that you'll ever set eyes on is the Smith River.
Well, I'll tell you what, you sold me on it. I want to go. But before I hop in the truck and drive down there, I guess I better ask, when it comes to fishing the Chetco, fishing the Smith, what are the main tactics that winter steelheaders are using down there to catch fish?
Yeah, most everybody is side drifting row here. We're going to use Mad River bouncing ball, probably 3/4 to 1 ounce, and a small piece of row and a fish pill on it is the most popular combination. We'll have some guys that'll back troll some plugs in some of these areas, but the majority of boats are actually side drifting. We're going to use some bobbers in some sections if the water gets really low. We've been fighting low water for the last couple of years, and everyone's kind of came off their game a little bit and had to lighten their gear up and go lighter tackle on it. But, with this muddy water, you're going to be able to stock up a little bit better and have a little bit more backing on your gear to get these big fish in.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. All right, we are running out of time. But before we go, let's give out a phone number and your website so folks can go ahead and book a trip with you to fish either the Chetco, the Smith, or some of the other rivers in that region you fish.
You got it. You can reach me toll-free at 866-531-3474, or you can check us out on the web at stevehubersguideservice.com.
All right, that's stevehuberguideservice.com. Steve Common spelling, Huber, Huber, guideservice.com. stevehuberguideservice.com. Give him a call. Really nice guy. If you can't get him now, check him out at the Sportsman Show. He's there in Portland every year, and he'd be happy to talk more with you. Steve, thanks for sharing this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Appreciate it very much. You guys have a safe holiday.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, a nationwide group working to keep public lands in public hands so future generations can enjoy what we enjoy. Join the group that makes a difference. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
The 116th annual Audubon Christmas Bird Count is underway all over the country from now through January 5th. It's an opportunity for you to get outside with other birding enthusiasts and count the birds you see within a defined circle. This citizen science program helps biologists learn about changing populations, migration patterns, and more. It's also a lot of fun to participate in, and you can, no matter what your experience level, find a Christmas bird count near you by going to the Audubon Society's website at audubon.org. That's audubon.org. You are down to the wire for Christmas shopping this year. This is true, but it's not too late to get not only somebody special, a great outdoors gift, but also do it at a Sportsman's Warehouse store, which continues to have some incredible sales this weekend at all of their stores through the Northwest and online too at sportsmanswarehouse.com. In fact, all the way up to December 24th, you're going to find gifts for sale up to 65% off. See, you don't necessarily have to spend more if you wait. Again, that's sportsmanswarehouse.com or go to your local Sportsman's Warehouse store. There's probably one near you. And with that, it's time for our trivia question of the week and our $25 card giveaway. The 12 Days of Christmas has a lot of bird references. Everything from turtle doves to French hens to a partridge, doubtless a Hungarian or gray partridge, in a pear tree. But there is one more bird mention, actually a gaggle of about 6 of them that waterfowl hunters in particular might appreciate this Christmas season. What kind of birds are these 6 birds a-laying? If you know, and if you don't, just sing the song, you'll figure it out. Let us know on our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Do us a favor, like our page, and then go to the post where we've got this and give us your answer. Or you can go ahead and go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Just go to the Contact Us page, and again, let us know what kind of birds are these 6 birds a-laying from the 12 Days of Christmas. Everyone who guesses correctly is entered for a chance to win the $25 gift card we give away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse, and we'll have one lucky winner, just like we do every week, at the end of our last broadcast on Sunday. While you're on the web, be sure to tune us in at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It's the home of WRVO Radio. They air outdoors broadcasting over the internet 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That's RenoViolaOutdoors.com, the home of WRVO Radio. That's all for this week. Christmas time is here. I know it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of the season. I also know there are many who struggle with this season, both physically and mentally. I know there's strife in the world. I know there's fear. I know there's troubles too. My suggestion, bundle up and go for a walk in the fields or the woods. Head to a river or a lake and cast a line. Watch the sun come up in a duck blind, or just go outside and look at the stars on a cold winter night. When you do, don't focus on your troubles, but give thanks, because some 2,000 years ago, there was another couple having hard times in a world also filled with strife and fear. When they arrived at their destination, they found there was not even room at the inn, and they were forced to spend the night in a stable. And in that stable, a baby was born. A baby that would change the world. It makes you give pause, doesn't it? Until next time, take care, God bless, Merry Christmas, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.